There's nothing. Hello everyone, good morning. Sorry a bit late, but I started and we lost the internet connection here in the office. Anyway, it's 29th of September and nearly to the end of the month, and yes, we've got a squeaky door hinge. That was Jane leaving this little room we have. Anyway, it's live. So before we get into the weather and bits, I thought I'd just go through the leaderboard, which sometimes is relevant and other times it's not, depending on where they are in the course and what's happening. But right now, it's pretty much coming back on track because the whole fleet is sort of grouped around the rum line, heading down towards Trinidad Island. And so what you're seeing on the leaderboard is probably correct. And it's interesting for me to always just look at the average speeds, daily run. Simon made 66 miles, Tapio 68, and so it goes. But Damien is making consistent times. He's when we go right down to Damien there, he's doing what have we got? 110 nautical miles in 24 hours. But the biggest person on the jump at the moment is Arnaud. He did 121 miles yesterday, and you can see he's got some strong following breezes there, so he's doing pretty well, but we'll get into that in a minute. So as I say, the leaderboard now is to a degree coming into its own, and don't worry about Ayrton. He's got power issues up and down, so sometimes he may miss a track. If his batteries are down during the night, then sometimes it might miss, but he'll come back, so we're not worried. We have a process there. If we see someone on an unusual track, there's so many different ways for them to alert us to a problem. We don't immediately jump to it if the track looks strange in 24 hours or something like that. So, because often when that happens, we get a lot of posts and emails saying, "Oh, what's happening here? Is he okay?" So don't despair. We've got everything under control, and we have a set process that we use when tracking is unusual. Okay, so so as I say, you can keep an eye on this, and at the moment Simon's still in the lead, followed by there we go up here, Simon, Tapio, Pat Lawless, Kirsten, and so on. So interesting statistics now. The interesting part here is this is quintessential typical doldrums. You can see this area of instability here, very much local weather. Someone asks how accurate is it? It's very inaccurate, these little holes here, because all the weather data comes from floating buoys in the ocean, and then that goes into the computer modelling. But generally the pressure gradients here are very low. In other words, there's not a lot of a lot of gradient, from top to bottom, and that makes it hard to predict what's happening. And it's more relevant to local anomalies and so on. So when you see Simon, for instance, sitting in a hole here, it may not be the case. He could have a nice breeze and so on. So it's very hard to predict. Up here, it's a lot more easier to predict because there's a proper gradient in the isobars, and the weather seems to be a bit more obvious to declare, to come up with a computer model. And if you do have a calm up here, it's in the center of a low pressure or a high pressure. That's usually pretty accurate as well because it's surrounded by the gradients. But in the doldrums, they can get anything, absolutely anything. A lot of the entrants were talking about these huge thunderstorms, lightning shows, and part of that can be from charged particles of the Sahara dust coming across, from Africa, all those sorts of things. They get a static electricity charge, and when they bounce together in humidity and all these different things, it can make for some phenomenal lightning shows, more than you'd expect anywhere else on the planet, some ways, because it's a unique phenomena to that part of the world with all those particles in the sky. Anyway, so this is very typical. The equator is down here, running along the bottom of the page. And I just want to roll through. We'll talk about weather overall before we get there. You can see the back end of the fleet, heaps of breeze, right? So it's starting to squeeze up as we predicted in the last day or so. The tail enders are coming forward. I've already measured the distance between Damien and Simon. He's, remember that magic 550? I said keep an eye on that. It'll give you a gauge of what's happening. He's basically back to 450 now. So he's gained 100 miles on the leaders. And I think you're going to see something similar as we go forward. I just remembered I'm supposed to speak slower for some of the people that aren't totally au fait with English. So I'll try and speak slower, and I'll try to not forget about Jeremy today. Sometimes I don't mention everyone, but but I will bring up Jeremy later. So going forward, you'll see what's going to happen. It's quite interesting. I went through it this morning. So if we go forward a day to tomorrow morning, you'll see there's a breeze on the eastern side of the track. So those that are on the east are probably going to pick up a bit, okay? And how far west this extends, who knows? But there's definitely some breeze on the east, which means the doldrums are very not really a problem down that side of the course. Simon, I'll just bring this up a little bit now. When we get across here, Simon and Tapio right now they're doing 2.8. This is tomorrow 2.2. You may see, like Simon's already in the breeze by the look of this here, so by tonight and so on, he may pick a breeze and keep going. Tapio might lag behind a bit. Kirsten's been making great time this morning. Remember, I shouldn't talk about that because this is tomorrow morning's weather, okay? So again, I'll take it to 2 days ahead. Hang on, in the morning, that's near enough. And you'll see here, again, everyone's going to get breeze. Now, this is pretty cool because if we look back on the doldrum pictures, they're starting to squeeze up. You've got the trades up here extending north. You've got this constant airflow here coming down to the south. So now I'm worried that our flights to Cape Town on the 30th of October may be too late. We'll see. If they can zip across this area here, they're going to be moving pretty well down towards Cape Town, so keep your fingers crossed. If we go forward then another day, this is the morning of the 2nd, again, there ain't no doldrums there. It's basically completely disappeared. This is fantastic news for the fleet because the guys behind, this is 3 days in ahead, so it's about 300 miles, of slow travel average for the fleet. So if we take Kirsten, for instance, I'll go on the clicker here, and we'll come down 300 miles. There's 350 miles. If she sort of holds to the east of the course, there's 3 days, they'll be into it. And I've got a feeling they're going to make, they'll actually make progress through the doldrums pretty efficiently. So, and again, there may be a squeeze up of the back runners towards the front. So Damien will be loving this. He's going to get a ride down. He'll follow this down, and I think at the moment, while he's 450 miles behind, in 3 days he may be 250 miles behind. You know what? No, that's a bit much. So probably 300 miles. He may make up 150 miles in the next 3 days. So going to be very interesting to follow this. And as I say, the leaderboard now is becoming relevant. So what you see, you can brag about. Whoever's in the front, coming 4th, 5th, 6th, and so on. That's pretty good. Now straight to Jeremy to see what he's been doing the last 3 days. 4.8 knots. This is real-time weather now for today. So he's doing pretty well. He's quite happy there. 4.8 knots is pretty good. And, he's about to be probably overtaken by Damien, making 5.6 knots today. Good, stolid breeze. That's Ian Herbert Jones, rather. I'll come down here. Okay, so Ian is doing okay, 4.9. He's still heading out to the west of the course, which is fine. At least he's making progress south. And Arnaud flying along 5.5, but you can see he's got plenty of breeze. He's probably getting 30 knots in there. It'd be 25, 30 knots. Having a good time, maybe 3 metre seas. Well, let's have a look at what the 3.5 metres maybe. Look at the waves here. Yeah, he's got a bit. So if we remember to come down and look at the colour gradient at the bottom, he's got big seas. Well, not big, but reasonable for the Atlantic. He's probably got four and a bit metres. Damien down here, the guys have got pretty predictable, 2.5 metres, 2 metres, something like that. So no real surprises there, but Arnaud to be happy with that. Let's look at the temperatures because a few people have been wondering how hot it's getting. Okay, so this is the temperature right now. It's into the 30s for sure. That's all 30s, 30 plus. So quite warm on board. The currents, not so relevant for now, but will be in the future. No one's really getting a push here too much at all. Simon's, look at that, he's lucked out there. This is probably 1 knot going here and either side of him, but not a lot happening in the middle. So not a lot happening in currents. If we look at the pressure, I'll just come up the pressure gradient. You can see here there's virtually no pressure, no extreme pressure gradients here at all. So that's where the doldrums come into effect, what I was saying. No rain, waves, cloud, temperature, wind. We'll go back to wind and close that again. So hang on, I'll come back up here so we can zoom in a bit. I mentioned Jeremy, didn't I? Yes. Okay. Ayrton said that he was behind on tracking, but that's 0-0, and Guy is 0-4. Yeah, so we didn't get Ayrton's 4 o'clock position, but Guy's right beside him, only doing 1.2, and Ayrton was doing 2.3 at midnight last night. So yeah, they're pretty much on a par. Abolish not going very far anytime soon. He's got 1.8 knots. You can see he's come into an area where there's no wind, and this is today. This is real time weather now. You can see he's got this real soft patch. Pat's moving ahead, 2.4, so he's got enough to keep going. Kirsten's actually flying, 6.2. So she possibly got involved with a big thunderstorm there that's given her a lift. That happens, These thunderstorms can be anywhere from a mile across to 10 miles across. They can be really big, and they all go around in the same sort of direction, like as a circle. If you can hit it at the right side, you can get a big lift for 4 hours or so. In fact, I remember when I was down through here, you would calculate the best place to hit it and drive straight through the middle of it, and you can hold onto it for longer because the cell itself will actually be moving. It'll be have its own track, and it used to be quite fun bouncing from one cell to another. So local anomalies is what I'm telling you about. She's got this band of nothing in front. She's got to get through that. I just realised I started to speak a bit fast again. Let's just see what happens here. You see how quick it moves. That's 7 o'clock tonight, and it's back to a breeze. So very unstable stuff, and everyone's having fun. Even Elliot. We had a great chat. If you haven't heard his SoundCloud yesterday, go listen to it. It's a classic, absolute classic. There's a bit of Matessia in there. There's a bit of horror show. It's just amazing. It was a really good call. I enjoyed talking to him yesterday. So have a listen to that. And I think I've covered everyone. We'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, Pat's there. Yep, everyone's there. Hoo-hoo. We got everyone.